Hey, what's up? Kevlin here. I have Petunia with me. Y'all have probably heard of Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes, the prequel to Fire Emblem Three Houses. Three Hopes came out in June 2022, and I just finished it. It's not because I didn't like the game, I actually really enjoyed it. I'm just lazy and have a very fine ratio to gameplay to editing energy, and it's not a lot. I'm not the Energizer Bunny. Anyways, to get on with the obligatory part, this is a review, and it's all of my thoughts and opinions and experiences. In no way, shape, or form am I trying to offend anyone or spoil anything. There may be spoilers, though, so if this isn't really your thing, this is your cue to migrate somewhere else. Now that the formalities are out of the way, let's get this thing started. Three Hopes was released a few years ago, and when it did, there were questions. Who is this? Who is that? Is that Monica? There were also memes and theories minutes after the trailer dropped. While the core of Fire Emblem Three Houses is there is a warrior's flair that has been sprinkled onto the game. Gone are the large chessboard maps. Now there's just vast open fields, hundreds of enemies, and your army of like 8 people. You still have your house leaders and rivals, but we are getting some faces to names now, or even seeing some new faces, which not everyone was too pleased about. The biggest change was that you aren't playing as the stoic Byleth, but the high-energy mercenary Shez. You and your new cryptic conscious pal, Arvel, get to join one of the 3 houses you already know and love, and go from there. You and your new team hack and slash through hordes of enemies, and get your 1,000 steps in as well. That is the nutshell of most Warriors games, though. The combat in this game is as much as you would think from a Warriors game. While it's not complicated, it's more so than the original Fire Emblem Warriors game, but not as complex as Three Houses. Besides Shez and the house leaders, excluding Rhea and Yuri, most of the class actions are the same. The combat movement and animations are basically the same for all the mounted lance units, and all the attacks are really similar for the archers. Since you can train anyone in almost anything, being able to pair skills, both personal and class ones, with different classes and gameplay styles is where you'll get the most variety and fun. Though a side note, any good weapon with a type advantage is a huge game changer. It can save you, even if you're severely under-leveled. I still really enjoyed the combat and gameplay though, despite it being kind of repetitive. Actually being able to pair people up in this game is great. In Three Houses, we didn't really get a pair-up system like in Awakening or Fates. The person you dragged along on the field trip was basically a human shield that would sometimes participate, probably because their grade depended on it, and also to leech off some XP. Though this game, combat pairs can fight together, shield each other, and perform critical attacks on opponents. They would also get some bond points if they do well. The characters in this game were great. Maybe comparing it to Fire Emblem Engage, which released around the same time as Fire Emblem Three Hopes, is unfair. But being able to hang out with the characters we spent 4 routes with and getting to know them even better is great. We even get to see some new faces that were just either mentioned or photobombed some scenes in Three Houses. We got the real Monica, for starters. I didn't really like her, but she had some semblance of a personality. I didn't know one side character could bring so much salt to the table. But hey, she was playable. We also got to see Hilda's brother Holst. Both of these characters were playable. Do they add a lot to the story? Not really. Speaking of the story, just like in Three Houses, there are multiple routes that all try to get to the same spot, but by increasingly weirder methods. Edelgard still wants to burn down a church. Dimitri is just trying to keep the peace and keep his demons at bay, and Claude is doing whatever he does in his spare time. All the routes are broken into 2 parts. Their personal problems, like dealing with family issues or uprisings, and then the second part kind of merges everyone back into the main Edelgard wants to start a war story. Though everyone has a story, Byleth is just mostly chillin'. We don't get to see too much of them, but we get to see more of their life as a mercenary and more Geralt, which is always welcome. Though it looks like Byleth pawned all their problems off onto Shez. Apparently Shez and Arvel are related to those who slither in the dark and don't remember anything. Kinda like me, I have a colander for a brain, so sometimes things slip through the little holes. The only thing I know is that Sothis and Arvel seem to have personal beef with each other, which Arvel will let go given enough time. Sothis, though, she's like a teenage girl. She can hold a grudge for, like, I'm not kidding, thousands of years. Even though, when you really think about it, this game's story is a nice, toasty fire. I really liked it. Sure, we didn't get answers to everything. In fact, we may have gotten more questions. But I liked playing a variation of 2 fun games, Three Houses and Hyrule Warriors. On the note of Hyrule Warriors, Three Hopes is missing a lot of the elements that some of us has come to know and maybe even expect from Nintendo Warrior crossover games. One thing is item collecting. Instead of fighting dudes and looting their dead bodies for belts and boots, you get turnips. disguised as tomatoes. And what are those used for? Cooking. One can only eat so much fake food before you start getting a little delusional. I don't think you're supposed to eat the fake fruit. There are also weapon refinery things you can collect, but those will more likely be in treasure chests or earned through clearing out regions. Or you can just go buy them. So while sometimes in other warrior games it can get old fighting someone over and over again for their hat, I kind of miss it. It added a bit more to boosting weapons and stats. It also is harder to get some items in Three Hopes, because while yes, you can go back and replay any cleared mission, there's no side quest maps. In Hyrule Warriors, you could play on the main story mode, free mode, and then there were like 7 maps of extra quests. Even the original Fire Emblem Warriors had extra maps based on each character's introduction or major battles. It would have been nice to have some side maps for like the Abyss or the Lake Tates, I can't pronounce that, or the place where Byleth got sealed away. That is one thing I will mention in the next part. This is the part where I toss structure and sense into the shredder and just start ranting. The lack of map diversity. I know a lot of elements were probably reused from Three Houses to Three Hopes, like character models and enemies and music, but if you play all the story maps, you played them all. All the side missions and quests take place on fenced-off parts of the main story map, and it becomes super apparent after your first playthrough. Something you'll hear again and again is the music. Three Houses has one of, if not the best soundtrack in any Fire Emblem game, but I don't feel like we got much of it. I really only noticed the same 2 or 3 songs being played. I also don't think we got any new songs either. Like, how did we not get a remix of the main Three Houses theme? If Arvel is really from those who slither in the dark, why didn't we ever get some dubstep accompanying them in battle? Where are all the fun songs? Where are all the fun characters? Okay, this may be a stretch, and maybe we were just spoiled in Hyrule Warriors and getting playable villains, but like, what? While it is fun to be able to finally play as characters like Rodrigue or Holst, we still can't play as Judith or Randolph. The game does not care if they are disposable in the story or not. You can still play as them and lose them, whether that's by accident or by story. How about characters who were playable before and only got to show up a handful of times, like Hanneman or Gustav? I mean, sure, I get it, they weren't exactly fan favorites, but once they gave us something, they take it away?
Huh?
At least we got the Gatekeeper and a few others, but still. What if I wanted to play as Hanneman and take on the world? What if I wanted to play as Rufus and bury a body? What if I wanted to play as Shahid and cause minor inconveniences wherever I went? I don't know, maybe I'm just the minority here, but I would have liked to see them playable. Personal stories were really rushed here. We finally got a glimpse of Elmira, and it swept up like it never happened. Petunia, where are you going? Personal stories were really rushed here. We finally got a glimpse of Elmira, and it swept up like it never happened. Go ahead and send those cupcakes out. But they don't have frosting. They're just naked muffins. Send it out anyways. Who is Arvel? I don't know. A Sothis alt? Edelgard doesn't remember anything. She doesn't even remember her name.
Name? What's his name? I got nothing on a name. Come on, baby. What's the name?
We've lost sight of Talus and Saros. Oh well, out of sight, out of mind. It feels like they left room for DLC, but didn't act on it. This whole game felt like a big what-if scenario or a fan fiction. Personally, I'm here for it, but it feels like the author forgot to finish the story. As much as I just ranted, I really, really liked Three Hopes, and it's probably, besides Tears of the Kingdom, one of the best games I've played recently. Take that with a grain of salt, though. I think it's also a good note to leave off for the Fodlan story. It leaves a lot of room for lots more fun ults and Fire Emblem heroes, like mid-time skip Dimitri Wen. I'd also like to see Epimenides as a fallen Arvel alt. That's really hard to say. Byleth and Shez duo Wen guys. Like, they could be like a Halloween alt and be dressed as Sothis and Arvel or vice versa. This is crazy. I think this is the whole thing. This will be my first official game I've finished on this channel. I'm excited. I don't know. It just makes me really happy that I finished this and I actually saw this thing to the end. I also want to thank you guys for joining on this delicious unbaked mission. It's like cookie dough. It wasn't cooked all the way through, but we still ate it and enjoyed it. So thank you again. I had a lot of fun, and I hope y'all did too. I'm not sure where this is heading next, but I hope to see you there. And until then, Petunia and I hope you have a good one. Thank you guys again for sitting through this whole thing, whether you've been here since episode 1 or you just joined in. It means a lot. I know I'm not the most entertaining and upbeat person, but this is something I actually had a lot of fun doing. So I hope you guys had fun watching. I hope you guys had a good day. I don't know how to end this segment. without saying thank you a million times and sounding like Beetle. So I think I'm just going to stop talking now.